Welcome back, everybody. Today we're taking another deep dive into some really fascinating stuff.
Yeah.
You guys sent in an article by Gender Benson, and it's all about cross-dressing as escapism.
Okay.
So we're going to just kind of jump right into this deep dive and really kind of get into what she's talking about.
Sounds good.
One of the things that I found super interesting right off the bat was this kind of unexpected connection that she makes between cross-dressing and sexiness.
Yeah.
So
I'm curious about that too.
yeah, so we're going to definitely unpack that. But before we get there,
Sure.
I kind of want to set the stage a little bit.
Yeah.
And talk about, I think something that's really fundamental to this whole idea of escapism, which is, societal pressure.
Yeah, that makes sense.
Like what is it that we're trying to escape from?
Right.
And Benson, kind of kicks off the article by saying that, a lot of this need to escape comes from, these really rigid expectations around gender roles.
Okay. Yeah, I can see that.
But I guess I kind of wonder, have those expectations loosened up a little bit, especially compared to 50 years ago or something like that.
I mean, I think that's true.
Yeah.
There's definitely been progress.
Yeah.
But Benson's argument isn't really about how strong the restrictions are. I think it's more about the fact that people just have this inherent need to express themselves.
Right.
And sometimes that bumps up against even these really subtle pressures from society.
Yeah.
And she actually has this really powerful quote from someone who cross-dresses, who says that when they try to conform to those expectations, it feels like you're living someone else's life.
Wow.
Yeah.
Living someone else's life.
Yeah.
That's heavy.
Yeah, it is.
So then cross-dressing is a way to kind of reclaim their own life.
Exactly. Yeah.
Reclaim their own identity.
And it becomes a really therapeutic thing.
Okay.
She compares it to that feeling of flow.
Oh, like flow state.
Yeah, exactly. When you get totally absorbed in something that you enjoy doing.
Right. And it kind of makes all your stress melt away.
Right. And she thinks that the whole process of transformation, picking out the clothes and putting on the makeup and styling a wig.
Yeah.
That whole ritual can actually put you into a similar state of flow.
Oh, that's interesting.
Yeah.
It kind of reminds me of getting ready for a play.
Yes.
When you're putting on a costume and you're, suddenly becoming this different character.
Exactly. And the cool thing is, it's not just psychological. There are actually physical benefits too.
Oh, really?
Yeah. There's research that shows that when you do things you enjoy, it can actually lower your cortisol levels.
Oh, wow.
Which is that stress hormone.
So it's a real measurable impact on your body.
For sure.
Not just in your mind.
Exactly.
That's pretty cool.
Yeah.
So, we've got the stress relief part, but I feel like there's something even deeper going on here. Benson talks about the thrill of transformation and seeing yourself in a new light.
Yeah, it's not just about escaping the bad stuff.
Right.
It's also about, embracing the good stuff.
Yeah.
Cross-dressing can give you access to these parts of yourself that you might not even know are there.
Okay.
Maybe you discover a new confidence, or you start to move in a more graceful way, or you tap into a playful, creative side. She even quotes one person who said they feel more themselves when they're cross-dressed.
Wow.
Which is crazy because you're literally putting on a totally different appearance.
Right. It's almost challenging the idea of what it means to be yourself.
Totally.
And I think this kind of leads us back to that thing you mentioned before about the connection between cross-dressing and sexiness.
Yeah.
So can you unpack that a little bit for us?
Sure. So this is where Benson's work gets really interesting.
Okay.
She basically says that for some men, cross-dressing can be a way to explore and express a kind of sexiness that's outside of the usual masculine norms.
Okay, see, I think that's a really important point because, a lot of people might just assume that, when men cross-dress, it's about wanting to be a woman or something.
Right.
Or wanting to, appeal to men or something like that. But Benson's saying it's not necessarily about that at all.
Yeah, she's really clear that it's about self-expression.
Okay.
Not about who you're attracted to.
Okay.
It's about embracing vulnerability and fluidity.
Yeah.
And kind of owning your own power.
Okay.
And that can be a really liberating and empowering thing.
So I'm starting to get where she's going with this, but how does this all tie back to escapism? Is it about escaping these limitations of traditional masculinity or something?
I think it's kind of like that, but it's even more nuanced.
Yeah.
It's about escaping any kind of rigid definition of yourself.
So it's reclaiming that sense of sexiness for yourself.
Yeah.
On your own terms?
Exactly.
Wow, that's really challenging some pretty deeply ingrained societal norms.
Definitely.
And that, like pushing those boundaries can be really liberating for people.
Oh, yeah, for sure.
I mean, it sounds like what she's saying is that, like,
Right.
by, kind of embracing these parts of ourselves that maybe we've been hiding or suppressing,
Right.
we actually become, more whole, more integrated.
Exactly. And this journey of self-discovery often leads to people seeking out connections with others who get it,
Well, that makes total sense.
Yeah. Because it can be really isolating to feel like you're the only one going through this.
Right.
And Benson actually talks a lot about the importance of community for cross-dressers.
Yeah, because when you find a community where you feel seen and understood, that can be so validating.
Absolutely. And she goes beyond just the social aspect.
Yep.
She also talks about the psychological benefit.
Yeah.
Because when you can share your experiences and you get support from other people and you feel validated,
Right.
it really reduces those feelings of shame and isolation.
Totally.
And that can have a huge impact on your mental health. Benson's argument about cross-dressing as escapism, it's not just about escaping from something.
Right.
It's also about escaping into something.
Yeah.
It's about finding a space, whether it's a physical space or like a psychological space.
Right.
Where you can just feel free and authentic and like fully expressed.
Yeah.
It's about creating that space for yourself.
Yeah.
To explore and experiment and grow.
It's almost like building a secret garden inside yourself.
I love that. Yeah.
Like a place where you can nurture these parts of yourself that maybe you've been hiding.
Right. And sometimes those hidden parts are the key to like unlocking a deeper understanding of who you are.
Totally.
And even living a more fulfilling life.
Absolutely. And Benson kind of touches on this when she talks about integration. She's saying that, real escapism isn't about staying in that separate space forever.
Right.
It's about bringing what you discover there back into your everyday life.
Exactly.
It's about integrating those different parts of yourself into a more whole and authentic you.
I like that, more whole and authentic you.
So it's not just about like a temporary escape.
Right.
It's about using that escape to like grow and become more integrated.
Exactly.
That's a really cool way to think about it.
And, Benson takes it even further.
Oh, yeah.
She actually suggests that this whole journey of self-discovery through cross-dressing could have implications for society as a whole.
Oh, wow. That's interesting.
Yeah.
But how does she make that connection?
She argues that as more people embrace the freedom to be themselves, it starts to challenge these rigid gender norms.
Okay.
Those norms that tell us how we're supposed to act and dress and even feel based on our gender.
Right.
And those norms can be so limiting. Yeah.
And it kind of ties back to what we were talking about before, about how self-acceptance can lead to a greater acceptance of others.
For sure.
If we can embrace the fluidity and the complexity within ourselves, then we're more likely to be understanding and accepting of others.
Exactly. And Benson kind of hints at this in her closing remarks.
Okay.
Where she says that, in its own way, cross-dressing can actually contribute to a more compassionate and empathetic society.
Wow. That's quite a legacy.
Yeah.
For something that's often dismissed as just escapism.
It really is. And I think it shows how important it is to look beyond those surface level judgments.
Right.
And really try to understand the deeper motivations and meanings behind human behavior.